Pinocchio is considered by some to be one of the best known and one of the greatest children's stories of all time. In the 140 years since it was first released, it has been adapted into shorter stories and longer stories, into various shows and various movies, probably the most famous of which is the 1940 Disney adaptation, Pinocchio. Now, you've probably read or you've seen it somewhere, and so you're familiar with the story of Geppetto, the woodcarver who forms an extraordinary marionette out of wood, wishes for it to come to life, sees that happen. We watch Pinocchio go through a series of adventures and misadventures before he becomes a real boy.
Father, what you crying for?
Because you're dead, Pinocchio.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Now lie down.
But Father, I'm alive, see? And I'm real.
Now, as compelling as this story is, it also teaches us some lessons about what it means to be children of God. John 1 verse 12 says that to all who received Jesus, who believed in his name, he gave the power to become the children of God. God wants us to be his children in his family. And everything he does from the beginning to the end of the Bible has that goal in mind. And so if we look at the story of Pinocchio, we find some real practical lessons that teach us what that actually means. First of all, you have the idea that God is our creator. In the same way as Geppetto fashions, as he shapes Pinocchio, God has fashioned us. Genesis 1:26 and 27 states that we are created in the image of God. Jeremiah 1:5 states that God formed us in the womb for a purpose. Pope Benedict XVI sums this up when he says, each of us is the result of a thought of God. Each of us is willed and loved and necessary. In other words, God has created us on purpose for a reason, having shaped us with the same sort of intimate, intricate, loving care as a woodcarver would shape a marionette. The second thing is that although Pinocchio is not biologically Geppetto's child, he is very much Geppetto's son. And obviously this is kind of the fairy tale miracle that shows up at the end of the story when Pinocchio becomes a real boy. But unlike a fairy tale, the God who wishes to see us lifted up from just being creatures that he made to being his children, his sons and his daughters, well, God has the ability, has the means to do just that. And so we are raised up from being just creatures that God has made to being his sons and his daughters. This is something that God speaks through the prophet Isaiah when he says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." God speaks those words not just to people who lived a long time ago, but to you and to me. You are mine. Bishop Robert Barron says, the Bible's not the story of our quest for God, but of God's passionate, relentless quest for us. Everything he does, from beginning to end, is to raise us up to be his children. And he's willing to stop at nothing, even sacrificing his only son, because he wants to see that happen. And finally, just as we see Pinocchio transformed at the end of his story, something has definitively changed in us. This is why St. Paul can write to the Ephesians, "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children." We aren't just slaves. We aren't just servants. We aren't just minions. We aren't robots that have been programmed or sort of set up in some way to just follow God. We've been created with freedom to be able to choose to act or to live as we might choose to do. But we've also been lifted up to become something more. This is why 1 John 3 tells us, "See what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God. And so we are." Our adoption into the family of God, which we talk about at our baptism when we are claimed for Christ, that's just the beginning of our story. We don't know yet what adventures we're going to have. We don't know yet what struggles we're going to overcome. But whatever those might be, we do so knowing always that we do so not just as a creature, not just as something that he designed and made and forgot about, but we do so as God's beloved sons and daughters, as his children, whom he loves dearly.